to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee. Thanks for listening, and please consider subscribing to this podcast to hear more great stories from like the one that's about to happen. So today, I am interviewing a New York-based painter, Delvin Lugo. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Hi.
You like how I changed the voice there, didn't you?
I know, me too, I think. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, totally. And as we have the visual, it's a great way to, like, while we're talking, I can look at some of your work because I see these are familiar in the background.
I have one piece behind me that I can show you.
Yeah. So as we get into it, give us the vital stats. For those who are undipped, give us the vital stats. When did you realize you wanted to become an artist, and what was that? What was your background? Things of that nature.
Cool. Yeah. So like you said, my name is Delvin Lugo. I was born in Dominican Republic, and I lived there till I was 12 years old. I grew up in this little tiny town called Monción, which even like you can talk to Dominicans and they're like, some might know. It's known because, I don't know if you know casabe. Casabe is like the yuca tortilla that we dip into everything. That's from my hometown. So usually when I mention Monción and casabe, people are like, oh, yeah. But many people haven't been there because it's way up in the mountains.
Gotcha.
So I lived there. I mean, I lived there till I was 12. I guess, I was sort of introduced to art there actually by my oldest brother. And I don't know, I must have been like 5 or 6. But I remember one time, I don't know where we were, I think we were in the living room, and he was doing some sketches. He was like sketching this woman's face. And I really think that's the first time to me, I was like, it looks like you're creating magic.
Sure.
And it really kind of like, actually even my sister mentions it always because she remembers how excited I got when I saw that sketch. From then on, my school there, we had limited resources, so we didn't really have art class. I think once in a while there was like a craft course where you just cut out like paper colors and created something with that. But usually when I was home, I grew up in the 80s, so I was watching like, Thundercats and all these like, I don't know, Rainbow Brights and all these shows. So I was filling up all my notebooks with like a bunch of drawings and things like that. And that was kind of like my art class, really, because I don't think I was in a real art class until we moved here in 1990. So I would say, probably like in the early 90s is when I really picked up a brush and maybe went to a museum, probably, I think the RISD Museum, and because my family's in Providence, Rhode Island too. Yeah. Oh, not too, you were just there. That's maybe the first museum I ever went to. And it was really something that I just felt, I don't know, there was something exciting about it. And again, there's like that aspect of like magic and you're just making something out of nothing seemed really, really exciting to me. Yeah. I also, although I wasn't like in art classes as a kid, my parents are tailored. My mom's a seamstress. She used to sew for a lot of people there and boutiques. My dad had his own tailor shop. So I kind of grew up, they were creators in a way. It's not the same thing, but I felt like I was, instead of playing with crayons and paint and stuff like that, I was playing with fabric.
Right.
So, and that was pretty cool, especially those 80 fabrics were really wild and a lot of colors, a lot of prints. And to me, I feel like I was using my creativity that way.
Sure, yeah. So going into like kind of getting that start around like clothing, fabric, and seeing the variety that was there, do you think that in some ways that kind of influenced some of your work and some of like, I'm going to start drawing like this. I'm going to start trying to work this pattern into what I'm putting out there. Also, I used to draw Thundercats and X-Men and things of that nature, mid 80s, early 90s. I get it.
Yeah, I was obsessed with drawing like robots too. For sure it influenced me. I mean, I was influenced by that. I think at one point I was kind of like into fashion so much, I kind of thought maybe that's the way I wanted to go. Maybe I wanted to study design. But I was kind of like always more into painting and art. In fact, I ended up, I'll tell you, eventually when I went to art school, I went to Maine College of Art to begin with. I did like a 2-year foundation. And I then decided to study film and moved that's what brought me to New York. Because, once I got to school, I realized that I liked so many things. I had a really hard time choosing a major, choosing something to stick with. It was so, by the time I was about to enter junior year, I was like, I don't know, at that time I didn't see myself completing my school years and painting. I really wanted to study film. And in those days, like around 97, the movies that were being made and the independent films and all that stuff was really was super, super cool. But I ended up working in fashion after school. I worked as a fashion stylist for about 12 years here in the city.
Nice.
So yeah, and I ended up kind of dipping my toes and my hands into just about a lot of different aspects of it in terms of production. And I worked on a lot of photo shoots, editorials, styling celebrities and things like that. And it was really interesting. I mean, in the end, I kept thinking I want to create my own stuff. That's what really brought me back to painting, because I worked on so many different projects and I kept thinking I just want to create my own.
Yeah.
And in the beginning too, I went with fashion too. Well, actually, when I finished school, I kind of just I needed a job. And I started doing retail for a while, and that kind of led to working with showrooms, things like that here in the city. So it had those sort of influenced my art now, especially when you look at some of my paintings, you'll see that I sort of pay a lot of attention to clothing.
Yes. And I think one of the other things, you wanted to get back to the magic. You wanted to get back to making your own magic.
Yeah, no, I kept thinking that. I kept seeing before so many photo shoots, they would bring all the references in. And I'm like, oh man, the same stuff. I'm like, I want to be the guy that they reference on all these boards and all these things.
Oh, yeah. I think sometimes when you see something, I want to be the person. It's well, you just got to be you have to do it now.
Yeah.
It's just you have to find your way to make it. So you touched on some of those earlier inspirations. What is that inspiration still similar now, or how has it changed in Delvin Lugo now, which you're putting out to right now, what you're working on now? What does that inspiration look like these days?
I think my work now really reflects all of those. Like I said, you see the fashion and some of the images that I'm using. Clothing has a lot of meaning, I feel like, in my images, and the bright colors that you see in my paintings are really inspired by the colors of growing up in the Dominican Republic. If you go to the countryside, you will see a neon green house. You will see a baby pink and a blue and a beige house with all these trees around it. And I like to use also a lot of geometric patterns, because you do see that there's all these iron grids and fences around the houses that have really cool patterns. So that's why you'll see some of that in my work as well.
So your paintings have that unique voice or what have you. In terms of that they are unique, but also they have a familiarity because it's this coming of age element in there too. I see youthful images. I believe that's you. And so how did you arrive to that being something you wanted to focus on as a subject matter? Was it these are great memories that I really want to key back in on and share these? What was that like? Yeah,
so it's really interesting because the way this came to be, I actually started before COVID. I don't know, there had been so much sort of hate towards immigrants in this country because of the former president we had. And I just kept thinking I want to do something to elevate. And that was sort of I started looking at some of my childhood pictures and pictures of our town, and the initial idea was to sort of do a series based on the town itself and all the different characters. I always kind of compare it to a Fellini movie, because we did have, like, there was the town crazy, there was the town slut. Like, if, you know, when you grow up in a little town like that, everyone sort of has this like stereotype on top of them.
Yeah.
So that was the initial idea, but as I'm learning, sometimes with series and inspiration, you might start in one thing, and then, you know, something that maybe you weren't even aware was going to come out of the work surfaces. And I was working on a painting based on a family portrait where we're all standing in front of the TV. Because in those days, you're taking like the family picture involved the TV, because it's basically part of the family. And at that moment, I started really looking at that picture and being like, there's something about this, about me here, that is missing. Is not really showing who I really was as that kid. Like, the moment I added an earring to the image of me as a little boy, it really kind of opened this door that I started exploring. And I was like, I looked at other kids' pictures and I was like, well, how can I represent myself? I see that these pictures are not representing myself. Then, like, so how can I tell who I really was in these pictures? And when you look at the paintings, there's something in each one of them that I think I'm trying to prove, and not really correct it, but just fixing history in a little bit and trying to really show who I was. In some cases, you'll see that I'm wearing a brooch. In one case, you'll see that I'm sitting there with this weird, like, Barbie that I've sort of made up, which is the true story, too. It's the painting that has the BBB on the T-shirt, which is really a T-shirt that I wore as a kid. You know, living in a country where, like, I guess no one spoke English. I had this T-shirt that says "bitch, bitch, bitch," and I was so happy to wear it and like show it around. It was like a nice teal bright color, and I wore that shirt everywhere. So that's part of the portrait. But right next to me is this homemade Barbie that I created, because I knew that my parents were not going to buy me a Barbie. So I created my own little, like, Frankenstein, as I call it, by using, I found like a head and arm somewhere in the trash. And then I used, there was no body to it. So I used like a bottle of dish soap as the body. And then I would make Barbie's clothes for it. So it was
That's
a
funny.
lot. And and in a way, you know, like, it was also, once I kept looking at the pictures more and more too, it was, of course, there's actually like trauma behind some of these things, but I felt like that's not what I'm doing here. I wanted to celebrate that, like, spirit of that kid, that, like, no matter what was happening, no matter how he was being bullied, like, nothing was breaking him down. And I felt like I was using also that inspiration as I was creating these paintings, and just really starting the series and also concentrating on being a full-time painter, which all was happening at the same time, because although I was painting, I was kind of what you would call a weekend painter. I really became full-time after COVID.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like that. It's funny, like, in kind of breaking it down, that you've answered like two of my other questions, which is great.
I know, just stop me, because I can go on. No. That's great, because ultimately, it's a conversation is really about you and your work. It's not about me yapping over here. And it's funny because the way I framed the question was, "Tell me about this favorite T-shirt of yours." And it's like, "Oh yeah, bitch, bitch, bitch." I was like, okay, great. So. I read that your work highlights positive, nurturing, and calming aspects of rural life of your family and yourself and your immigration into the U.S. Could you share maybe a story or something that is definitely depicted in that kind of transition to the States? Yeah, I feel like the nurturing part, I feel like my family still, despite maybe being not concerned, I guess maybe concern is the word, because I feel like, as a little boy, I was very effeminate, and the fact that I was into art made my parents already think that I was going to be gay. And it was sort of like this fear that yeah, maybe he is going to be, maybe not. But anyways, but I feel like no matter what, even no matter what the feelings were, I felt safe at home. I actually just created a painting that will be in a group show very soon, that it's about like that safe space. And usually, as you'll see in a lot of my paintings, it's like I have the safety of my siblings and the safety of the women that were around me, which is usually who kind of like protected me, I guess, when I was being bullied and all that stuff.
It's good to have that support system around, and I think I'm glad you're open and sharing that, because that is I think we use some of the things that we create to kind of process some of those things. It's like, look, this is a thing. This is a thing that exists. This is a thing that happened. Look where I'm at now. You know, it's like I'm on the other side of it. And I mean, I'm looking at some of my a few of the pieces that I painted when I was a weekend painter a few years back, and I'm like, oh, that was a interesting time in my life. Oh, that was about a bad breakup, and I was like, memories.
Yeah, it's funny the stuff that comes out, and sometimes I'm like, I start with an idea, and my process. Very rarely do I just sit down and work on one painting and finish it like within 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I like to work on a few pieces at the same time. And sure. Sometimes I put them away. Sometimes I hate them so much, I literally have to hide them, or just absolutely hide them. Before, when I had a basement, hide them in the basement and not see them. Yeah. Because sometimes you revisit and then you're like, oh, this is what it was about. It's right. Funny the things that I start with an idea, but I feel like, I wait till the painting really tells me what it's all about, because it really does reflect something back to me every time. It might not be super obvious at first, but I feel like I do. Yeah. It comes through.
Yeah, sometimes it just works itself into what you're doing. And, I was having this conversation earlier about doing this process and really covering it from being, I'm, like in my late 30s now, and I was in my mid 20s when I started. So it's a nice gap of time right there. And it's the different things that you're doing and different beliefs that you have and different experiences, and just talking into the mic what's on your mind and so on. You're documenting that, and it's like, I don't know if I can listen back to that, because it has that extra layer of, I'm saying this, so I'm hearing myself be like, man, I can't believe this happened to me, man. Life is hard, man. Or just different things that were happening on the really traumatic things, like the racial stuff, the just different things that happen, and you're around it and you're documenting it, and it's like, yeah, this is what I was thinking at the time. So sometimes it's hard to revisit it.
No, absolutely. And I felt that at certain times, because I'm looking at my childhood pictures too. Yeah. And, you're always kind of revisiting those memories. Even as I'm working, it seems like things were just kind of like going crazy in my head at times. And I have to tell myself, okay, stop, concentrate on the painting. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to have to go back and revisit and see these things. For me, I felt like there would be a change once I took from the original, because obviously I'm working from a photo, but once I took from that photo what I wanted, which is usually the figures, the image, and stopped working with the photo, I felt like there was something new. Something new would come out. There would be like a new, just new things would be revealed, especially in some cases I am working directly from the photo, but in some cases I kind of like to create a collage. Yeah. And that way, I don't know, that way to create a story and tell the story. Like I'll throw some plants in the back, or I'll do a collage with like 5 different pictures, even though it looks like it's a solid, image, or that it came out from a photograph, but I usually pull from different things. And when I do that, I feel like, it creates something new. I'm not dealing so much with that trauma from the past.
Like that. And there may be some questions related to that in the rapid fire, the plan. Just letting you know. So necessity, and I think you touched on this earlier with your Franken Barbie, if you will. So necessity is the mother of invention. Tell me about the importance of improvisation when it comes to your practice.
Yeah, well, no, it's a great question, because I'm usually I feel like I'm always improvising, or I kind of like, I start with an idea, but I try not to be too tied down to it. And I'm open. I don't have like one single technique that I'm always approaching each painting with. Sometimes I go to a sketch, I do a study. Sometimes I feel like doing a collage first with different photos is a way that I start really improvising.
Yeah.
And that way it also, you find the story too. Because sometimes, like I said, there's moments that I just know I like something and I have to like dig in deeper. Like, why is it that I like this? Why is it that something is calling out to me? And through the work of collage, I feel like I'm improvising, trying a lot of different things, different backgrounds. And I like, there's a speed that you work at when I'm doing that I like. Once in a while I'll sketch, but I kind of do the backward things. I do the collage and then I sketch.
Okay. No, I like it.
But even as the painting is up, I'm always going back, moving things around, and just trying to stay open to the fact that it's going to change.
It's almost that fashion mindset too. There, it's like, oh no, we're not wearing that with that. We're going to switch. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm envisioning. Is you're like, no, I'm going to take this out of the collage. Yeah. But sometimes, then you can overthink it too. Yes.
Which then is the huge, like, every time I feel like I'm having a painter's block, it's because I'm overthinking things.
So how do you unblock that?
I go for a walk.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling really, really frustrated, it's better than I'm by myself. If there's others around me, I'm probably going to be very moody. But one way to unblock it, just step away and remind yourself. I usually kind of like, I'm aware that I'm like, wow, I'm really overthinking this. A lot of times I find that like things that are making me, I don't know, if I feel like I'm revealing too much in a painting or something, that I get a little timid about it, like about, how is this going to be perceived?
Sure.
That idea can like block me up a little bit. And then I wait for that voice that says like, who cares? Just do it. Like, this is what you need to do. But yeah, listening to that voice that is kind of like doubting you can really block you up.
Yeah, because there's in terms of some of the subject matter that you're working in, it's things that are important to you. There are family elements in there, things that we hold reverence towards. So you would care, absolutely, you care, and it can be like, all right, I'm a little gun shy on this one. I don't know.
Yeah. But I find whenever the things that like you said, gun shy, the things that I'm a little more hesitant to show, I feel like those have gotten the best reactions, the best reception from the viewers, like, which, not that I need everyone to like what I'm doing, but it also kind of like validates it in a way.
Absolutely.
It feels good. It feels like, okay, like just keep peeling the layers, keep showing more of who you are. And you can't lose with that.
Yeah, and it's a very, it can be very rewarding, but also it's very like, I hope I get through this. You know what I mean? When you're revealing in that way. And when you get that feedback, I get what you're saying. Like, you don't necessarily need it, but you're feeling like, okay. It's like some relief there. So what's next? What's next for you? Upcoming exhibit, plans for the year, what we got?
There's some stuff coming up. Right now, I will be part of a group show at Calderon Gallery that is opening very soon. It's opening in a week here in NYC. And Calderon Gallery, they're really highlighting and representing Latin artists. So it's crazy because I'm so excited about it. I am going to be like amongst some of the artists that I really admire.
Sure.
So it's super cool. I'm really glad that like Bonnie Ramirez will be there, Railis Vasquez, and these are, to me, they're like giants. Or it's all Dominican artists, male artists showing too. But I'm super proud that I'm going to be part of that as well.
And that's going to run into when?
That's running until April 2nd. And yeah, that's Calderon Gallery on South Street Seaport.
I like your pre-plugs. I like how you did that, by the way. Did you listen to this podcast? You were sneaky right there, Delvin. I like that.
I did my homework.
All right, now you know it's time for the rapid fire questions then.
Oh man, hit me.
All right, so I got 5 of them for you. No, I know I have 5 of them for you. Yeah, good. So one of the things I've noticed in some of your work that you have flowers in there. What is your favorite flower?
I don't know. Well, shit. The thing is, I don't even know the name of some of the flowers that I like.
Well, describe it.
Oh, no, I'm not even going to try. No, I like succulents. It's not a flower, but I like succulents. I also like, oh man, there's this one flower from DR that we call Sangre de Cristo, Blood of Christ, but it's really like it looks like the flower that is like the Hawaiian flower, basically. I just don't know what it's called, but I do, because that whole flower thing started during the lockdown, during pandemic. So that's kind of how it got into my work. I was gardening and working on the yard a lot. And also my neighbor at that time had this beautiful garden that really inspired me a lot. In fact, actually, I did this tiny little project just for myself during the pandemic, during lockdown, that I called Neon Garden. And it was just because it was just artifacts and things that I had at home, things that I kept looking at as I was locked down in my house. And there was a flower, like a pansy. I guess I like pansies a lot. And I was trying to match the color of this pansy because I was trying to go really realistic. And the only color that I could match it to was a neon pink. And that's actually how I started using neon in all of my work.
That's great.
Because I had sort of had a few paintings from my series Early Life in Neon started, but once I combined the neon with that series, like things really blossomed.
I like how you said that. It was very nice. You know, flowers, that's how things blossomed. All right. I see what you're doing. I see what you did there. And here's the really funny thing, because you mentioned the colors. My next question actually is, what are the 3 most common colors in your palette?
Pink. Big on pink. I love orange.
Okay.
Something about orange. So, I mean, I kind of use a lot of them. It seems like because of the story with Dominican Republic and the country, baby blue.
I'm seeing it in the background. I'm seeing several of these colors in the background right now.
Yeah, no, that was based on my childhood home. Yeah. That's the house that I grew up in.
Oh, wow.
But it was that color. It was like baby blue with the porch in pink, the door pink and everything.
I like it. Do you have a motto or slogan that you apply to life or to your practice?
Well, I don't know. I guess I can tell you the things that I tell myself.
Sure.
I don't know. I guess a lot of times I don't know. It's not a motto, but just keep going and don't be embarrassed. It's actually something that I actually remind myself a lot. That's kind of, don't be afraid of making mistakes. It's also like, don't be afraid of ending mistakes. It's like, especially with painting, sometimes that could really cripple you.
Yeah.
If you're afraid of making mistakes, if you're afraid of getting the canvas dirty, of just like, it's hard because you don't want to redo anything. But there's been a few cases that I knew a figure in the painting. The painting was almost done, but I just knew that the figure needed to move an inch towards the right hand side of the canvas. And sure, I could have cropped the whole painting. I could have but I didn't want to do that. I knew I had to restart. Yeah. And so I don't know.
No, but I think, don't undersell it. I think that's important. I think recognizing, look, you can, my day job is a data job, and sometimes I have to remind myself, if things break, you can fix them. You know, if mistakes are made, they can be unmade, you know, like.
Yeah, like you can fix, and I really usually do. It's just that part that you're like, oh, I don't want to start again. I guess it's the lazy side of the brain that I'm like, oh, I don't want to, or what if I, you know, you could be opening a lot of different cans.
You start
changing something.
You start turning into a problem solver, but in the wrong way, just to be lazy. It's like, if I do this, right? It's like, you know, you should just start it over, right? Nah. I could just add this. Like, no. You should start.
There's a lot of that. So finally, I give in, and I'm like, nope. You know, and the thing is, you won't feel. It's like I won't feel rested until I actually fixed it. So
I got two more for you. What is something in terms of maybe something in terms of media, right? What is something that without fail makes you laugh? Is it a movie? Is it a comedy album? Is there something out there that you're like, okay, yeah, that's funny. That always makes me laugh.
Oh man, I like so many stupid things. I really do. I annoy people a lot by just sending them tons of memes, and I always do it like, it could be even Sunday morning at 7 a.m., but I'll just send like 5-10 memes to all my friends, and I don't care. Like, I just need to get that out of my way. I do like, oh God, one thing that always makes me laugh is Waiting for Guffman. Do you know that movie?
Yeah.
Christopher Guest. It came out, I think, in like 98, 99. I don't remember. Without a doubt, that movie will always make me laugh. I still, with one of my best friends, it's the movie that I probably quote the most, even today. I know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one I have for you. So what do you enjoy doing when you're not doing your work, when you're not art making? What do you enjoy doing most?
Well, I really enjoy being home. Sometimes my escapes will be just watching TV, dumb reality TV, The Housewives, with a glass of wine. Sometimes it's all I need.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then when the weather allows, I love being outdoors. I love going to the park, that kind of thing. The beach. I'm a huge beachhead.
You dig it.
Especially, I was just living in Rhode Island for a little bit, and I got to really go to the beach a lot.
That's great. So that's pretty much all the questions that I have, and I want to thank you for being on this podcast, and I want to once again, since you were sneaky, I want to once again invite you to tell the fine folks where to check you out, your work. No, it's funny. It's funny.
I got ahead of you.
No,
sorry.
You're good. So you're a double play. I appreciate it. So please tell the folks where to check you out, and yeah.
Right now, I'm part of a group show that's opening here in New York City, South Street Seaport at Calderon Gallery. And I'm so excited about that show because it's all male Dominican artists that are going to be part of that. That is curated by Tiffany Art Fonseca, and she's actually a really amazing artist too. So I'm super, super excited about this show, and it's on until April 2nd.
So there you have it, folks. I want to thank Delvin Lugo once again for coming on to the podcast. I am Rob Lee, saying that there's art in and around your city. You just got to look for it.